The Titanic sub runs out of oxygen at 6 a.m. Eastern Time on Thursday. That's the deadline rescue teams were racing towards to try and find the 5 people on board alive. Here's a timeline of events since the sub set off and the race by search teams to find it, according to the US Coast Guard's estimates.
This is an incredibly complex search operation.
We're losing time and we're losing opportunity to find them alive.
On Saturday evening, British billionaire and adventurer Hamish Harding, one of those aboard the submersible, posts saying, "A weather window has just opened up and we're going to attempt a dive tomorrow." He doesn't post on Facebook again. At 8 a.m. on Sunday, the Titan submersible begins its descent, triggering the 96-hour countdown, which is the window of oxygen supply the vessel has from the time it's sealed. It should be a 2-hour descent to the wreck of the Titanic, which lies at a depth of 12,500 feet in the North Atlantic Ocean. But 1 hour and 45 minutes after setting off, communications between the sub and the surface vessel are lost. The submersible has been scheduled to return to the surface at 3 p.m, but it fails to appear. The Coast Guard is notified at 5:40 p.m. By Monday, US and Canadian ships and planes are swarming the area, some dropping sonar buoys that can monitor to a depth of 13,000 feet. Search teams stress that this is a remote area and a challenge to conduct a search. Officials also ask commercial vessels for help. On Tuesday, more people on board are named. Pakistani-born businessman Shahzada Dawood and his 19-year-old son, Suleiman. Their family ask for prayers for their safety. Later on Tuesday, noises, reported to be banging sounds, are detected over several hours by a Canadian aircraft, which is equipped with gear to trace submarines. Reports suggest the banging sounds came at 30-minute intervals. Hamish Harding's friend says hopes are not high.
As it stands right now, it would be a miracle if they are recovered alive.
At 2 a.m. on Wednesday, the US Coast Guard announces it's deploying remotely operated vehicle searches to the area where the sounds were detected. The data is also sent to US Navy experts for analysis, while a French research ship equipped with a deep-sea diving vessel makes its way to the search area.
The surface search is now approximately 2 times the size of Connecticut, and the subsurface search is up to 2.5 miles deep, exponentially expanding the size of the search area.
6 a.m. Eastern Time on Thursday, the 22nd of June, is the rough deadline for when the vessel's air will run out, according to its specifications. But experts say the air supply depends on a range of factors, including whether the sub still has power and how calm the people aboard have remained.
Well, look, you give an air balloon to a 5-year-old and you tell it to poke it. It goes in a fraction of a second. The same thing happens in reverse in the ocean. You poke it, and in a fraction of a second, it's gone. So the implosion, it's a negative explosion, but it's the same pattern. It exploded inwards in a matter of a thousandth of a second. And it's probably a mercy, because that was probably a kinder end than the unbelievably difficult situation of being 4 days in a cold, dark, confined space. So this would have happened very quickly. I don't think anybody even had the time to realize what happened. So typically you'd want to land near it and then drive towards the Titanic. So, if they were 400 meters away, less than half a kilometer, that's not too bad. But it would indicate that it happened fairly early on. And from a technical point of view, I would speculate that something that puzzled me since Monday is how come they lost complete communication and tracking of the submersible right away on the way down. Because there's typically redundancy. You have communication to voice. It's all acoustic, but you have a system for voice, you have a system for text, You have a system for range finding, you have a system for sonar, and it's based so that you have backup, so that not everything fails at the same time. That all of a sudden, which made the week terribly difficult to find out, well, what's going on and where are they? By the time you lose communication, it makes it so much harder. And it was curious that all systems stopped at the same time. Little did we ever suspect that. I mean, that was one of the options, but it was pretty far down the line. But that would explain why all these systems stopped immediately, and which indicates that would have happened on the way down, early in the dive. Yes, on the technical side, one of the technologies that was unique to the Seagate, Ocean Gate submersible was that they used carbon fiber. Nobody had ever made a carbon fiber pressure hull for that depth before. And it is very difficult to test and verify. And that was a bit one of the key items that needed a lot of work in verifying that under what conditions and what's the reliability of these non-metallic. Metallic hulls have elasticity to them. We know how they behave. They are, in engineering terms, a linear material. You can predict them. Carbon fiber are very, very strong in tension. They're not so strong in compression. And we know that this is, but it's how do they react under extreme pressure? That leads a lot of research.
Heartbroken, honestly. I can't even imagine how the families are feeling today.
It's so sad that, that it imploded and they may not recover the people. It's very sad, really. It's an interesting story, and I'm sure the whole world has been watching. So it's disappointing that they were unable to help them, but, my heart goes out to the relatives and the people. And the United States Coast Guard did a wonderful job, as other countries did together, and they did what they could. So we're proud of them.
I'm really devastated to hear that they found the debris and not being able to raise them up from the bottom of the ocean. I was just profoundly hoping all day and all day yesterday that they would actually be able to save them.
We've just all been really hopeful that there'd be some good news, that, there'd be some miracle and it would be something to celebrate, but it's really sad. And I guess it's like here you can't trust the ocean, and so it's a reminder that Mother Nature is just in control and we're at her mercy, and it's scary. It's really sad.
We were always hopeful that with all this help coming from around the world, that they would be found. And now it's just heartbreaking that they're not going to make it. So we really feel for their families.
It seems like it was one of those accidents that probably didn't really have to happen if there was some more precautions taken and more thought put into it. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, I can't even imagine how any family member could deal with that. And so far away from where their families are too right now.
I can't imagine a worse way to die than to just run out of there in a cramped little space like that. It's my worst nightmare, and as I say, I just profoundly wish that they would find them and bring them up.
And I can't imagine the trauma they went through. Goodbye. Yeah, I think they're idiots, to be honest. Why would you put your life at risk when you got that much money in a very stupid, like, little thing with no technology in it, no GPS, nothing.
I think it's a tragedy, as any tragedy, but I think it was highlighted because basically there was a certain group of people that chose to go on that trip, and probably it gets a little bit more of media attention than the usual disasters that happen out there in the sea. That's what I think.
And what do you think about that? You know, why is that, you know?
Why is that? I don't know. It's probably because generally famous people and people who are high up there get more attention than regular people.
I think it's very sad with the technology that we have today. They should have found those people. They should have brought them up, you know. They should have sent another one down there because they have, you know, the equipment, you know, the United States, the Navy, all that. They should have sent another one down there to come get them.
There is something exotic and special with Titanic, so to a certain extent I can understand it, because I come from Norway. I'm teaching English, and you know, everybody of us have heard about Titanic, so it's something mysterious, something particular, so to a certain extent we can understand it, but it's just that it's so dangerous, so they should actually have more than one thought in mind when they do things like this.
It's a sad situation all around. The Titanic has taken 5 more souls and it's a wreck. You shouldn't go to that wreck unless you have all those facilities intact to return. That is the most important thing, to return from that wreckage.